Hello and welcome to this special edition of our program. I'm Ibrahim Shita, and today we turn our focus to Mokwa in Niger State, a community reeling from one of the deadliest flood disasters Nigeria has witnessed in recent memory. With over 200 lives lost, thousands displaced, and critical infrastructure swept away, the scale of devastation has sparked both humanitarian concern and national reflection. From the failure of early warning systems to the vulnerability of communities built on floodplains, this crisis raises urgent questions about planning, preparedness, and political will. How did we get here? What could have been, or what could have been done differently? And more importantly, what happens next? Joining me now is someone who has been to the heart of this tragedy. TVC senior reporter, Chenemi Bamaiyi, has walked through the aftermath, spoken with survivors, and witnessed firsthand the state of relief efforts or the lack thereof. Chenemi, it's good to have you with us.
Hi, Brian. Good evening. So good to be here. How are you doing today?
Right, so good, so good. But at the same time, I can just say so because of the incident that had happened in Mokwa and the ravaging flood situation across the nation. But if you look at it, the recent floods in Mokwa, where you are, quite have been described as the worst in 60 years, with over 200 confirmed deaths and more than 3,000 displaced. From your observations on the ground, how would you describe the scale of devastation in Mokwa and what stories stood out to you regarding the human toll of this disaster?
All right. The devastation on ground is unprecedented. I must say, it's nothing like you've seen before. And I know that all across there's been different scenarios of flood disaster, and of course, like it's expected, there will be loss of infrastructure and loss of property. But what stood out for me is the magnitude of loss of lives. Sorry, I'm on the road, so you might keep hearing um, sound
No,
of
it's
trucks
fine.
like
It's
this
fine. Carry
because,
on.
yeah, Mokwa is a trading route, so you have lots of trucks going along the road. So, what stood out for me is the magnitude of the loss of life. It's quite unprecedented. You find whole families obliterated completely. You find whole extended families disappeared because these people live in communities, they live communal lives and they live in clusters. This is northern Nigeria, it's very common. So you find father, mother, children, uncles, aunties, grandparents live in the same house. All right, it's very normal here. That's why when this disaster happened, it claimed a lot of lives. I spoke to people that their entire family were swept away, and they were the only ones left. There's a guy that I spoke to yesterday, and he said something that really touched me. He said he had persons in their house. They've seen just one dead body, and then his closing statement was, "How can he ever be happy in life again?" And it really got to me, and that's one of many stories. I've seen families that 16 persons were gone. I spoke to a lady yesterday, very, very touching story. She lost her newborn baby. And I asked her, I said, "Where's your husband?" That was when she told me that her husband does not live there, that he only came back home to put to bed. You know how, you just go back to your family house, your wife can go back just to put to bed. That was what she did. She only came back home to put to bed, and that disaster happened. She lost her baby, she lost her mother, then she lost her elder brother's wife. And so these stories are replete in this disaster. So that's why I said it's quite unprecedented. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
All right, Chinemi. Yeah, I said that was a grim story you actually painted there, a grim reality. But then the federal government attributed the flooding to unregulated building activities and encroachment that blocked natural waterways. Did you notice instances where homes or structures were built on floodplains or obstructed natural drainage paths? And how did this contribute to the severity of the flooding?
Okay, I think part of the cause of this flood is negligence from different quarters. First, from let me say the government. Let's push it that direction first. this entire area needs they've been suffering from gully erosion. So when you go through this area, you see different levels of gully erosion in this place, which tells you that some very big canals and drainages ought to have been built or dug along this corridor, and we don't have that yet, which makes it susceptible to flooding. When there's excessive water, it means it cannot take it. There's actually a drainage along that place, but the exit of the drainage is so small that cannot take so much water, which is what caused that. Um, so people built along that drainage, right? So, and they've never had, like they said, they've never had this kind of experience before. People built along that part, but this time when the water came heavily, the exit was too small, and that was why it's flooded the entire area. So I think first it's negligence. The government, people in authorities know that they ought to have built big drainages in that place. I mean, last couple of months ago, the governor said that they've received $10 million grants from the World Bank to build big drainages there and take care of the gully erosions. What I'm saying is across, you could check different newspaper headlines, you see it, and then nothing has been done. And this is not today's conversation. It's been there for since successive governments, but nothing has been done about it. Secondly, the people lack of orientation. All right. And I think more needs to be done in that regard. People believe because nothing has gone wrong, nothing will go wrong. So they build along those plains. There has been climate predictions concerning flooding in this area. Now, this place is close to River Niger, but it's not on the
Chenemi, looks like we lost your audio. Chenemi, if you can hear me. Okay, I'm afraid we temporarily lost connectivity with Chenemi Bamaiyi. He's painting for us
River
the
Niger.
same pictures. All right, Chenemi, can you
Okay,
hear
now
me?
I'll call you back. I'll call you back. Please cut. You're disturbing my work. Please cut.
Right, Chenemi, can you hear me? All right, I'm afraid we're having connectivity issues with Chenemi Bamaiyi, who is giving us updates from Niger State, the Mokwa flood that has been described as the worst in 60 years, where
Can you hear me?
more than 200 confirmed deaths. Yeah, Chenemi, we're having issues with your connection. I hope you're
Can
back
you
now.
hear me now? Can you hear me
Absolutely,
now?
we can hear you. Yeah, yes, carry
Yeah,
on.
so secondly, it's negligence from the people because of lack of orientation. People believe because nothing has gone wrong before, nothing will go wrong. So I don't think these people are properly sensitized about the dangers of living along floodplains. Do they even know what floodplains are? I've spoken to people, and one of the things that they kept saying was, "This has never happened." So, someone that thinks this has never happened before does not even know what it means to live along floodplains or places that are potentially going to be flooded by water. So, I think more needs to be done. Um, the National Orientation Agency needs to find a way to work in collaboration with local authorities to ensure that these people are sensitized and also resettled. So I think that's part of the cost at the root cause of this flood. I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was saying that you already told us about the early warning systems that were put in place. NIMED talking about the flooding that will definitely happen, but people did not. People failed to accede to these warnings. But if you look at the federal government, led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they already pledged immediate relief and shelter assistance to the victims, emphasizing that no affected person would be neglected. But what forms of assistance have you observed being provided to the flood victims, rather, and how effective are these measures being in addressing their immediate needs?
All right. I've been covering this story for since it happened. So I've been on ground and I've seen every form of assistance that was given and that is being provided right now. What I must say is that first, aid is beginning to come, but the speed at which it was delivered, I think could have been better. You know, for like 4 days, there was no aid in this community, and the magnitude of the disaster was such that it was difficult to to keep anything. Their homes were completely washed, everything that they had. So no food, no shelter, no water. You would expect that immediately the emergency agencies touch down, they should come with some of these things like temporary shelter, like tents, bring water and bring beddings for these people. But we didn't see all of that. Thankfully, from yesterday, aid began to come in, food began to come in, and today, from yesterday, we started seeing mattresses. Today, we started seeing mattresses too. And then the vice president visited the community today, and the big question on the lips of the people was answered, the issue of resettlement. And he announced a donation by the federal government, a 2 billion naira donation by the federal government to resettle them, which is something that they've all been clamoring for. Because right now, there's no IDP camp here. And the people found a way to manage that by living with their relations, and you can imagine the toll, for those that are hosting them as well. They are not so comfortable, being a burden to people. And because of what has happened, the people to have to take them in. But you and I know that it's not going to be easy. Some people took in as much as 16, 15 people into their homes, something you didn't plan for. Overnight, you're taking in 15 people into your house. Now think about what it takes to feed them. Think about the toll it will have on your facility. Think about your utilities. I mean, these are things that you need to think about. This is why temporary IDP camps are provided, so that you can provide those amenities for the people. But it didn't come on time. But thankfully, they are beginning to come in, and I think it's quite effective.
Right, interesting developments. But reports indicate that relief items, including rice, were distributed, but concerns have been raised about the sustainability of such aid. So much so that we heard that maybe from NEMA or whoever, humanitarian relief or emergency agency that have been there, said they brought in rice, took some pictures, and left with the rice. Could you confirm that story for us, in relations to the humanitarian reactions or aid that had been delivered there since the incident?
All right, like I said earlier, that the aid response was quite slow. The night that this thing happened, NEMA came here, they took records, and shortly after then, they left. But I was around, and then like just said, they brought in items, but the locals confirmed to me that after taking pictures, they took the items back to the store. That was what the locals said to me. They took them back to the store without distributing them. I think it was due to media pressure because we kept reporting on this thing that there was no aid in this community, there was no aid, and that pressure led to the frantic efforts to push those items out, And when I asked them, they denied it. But in their own testimonies, they said that it was because they wanted getting proper records and they didn't want the items to be sabotaged by those that were not affected. That was why they took the items back, waiting to have proper data before they release them. But this is emergency. People need this thing. In as much as you want to ensure that your effort is not sabotaged, people need this thing. You've been doing this thing for years. This is what you've been doing. So you understand all of this, you understand the nitty-gritty, you understand all the little issues here and there. There must be a way designed to ensure that people that need aid get it at the time that they need it. I understand that you're trying to ensure that you do your job properly, but what happens to these people? See, Ibrahim, I'm telling you things, I'm not telling you hearsay, I'm here on the ground. People come back to those to the scene of the incident every morning, digging up, digging the ground, looking for a spoon, looking for probably a mattress, looking for something that can help them just carry on with life again because these things were not provided. So that's what happened. They took pictures, they returned the items to the store, and I believe, in my assessment and my opinion, after the media pressure, They had to bring those things out, and then they began distributing them.
Wow, that's quite devastating, so horrendous. But let's look at the transportation and economic disruption which this has caused. Because if you look at the flooding, it has actually damaged key infrastructure, just like you mentioned, including roads and bridges, disrupted vehicular movements and economic activities. But how do you think this damage to transportation infrastructure has affected daily life in Mokwa? And what steps do you think is currently going on, or have you seen that is currently being taken to restore connectivity?
All right, so said earlier, Mokwa is the trading route. It connects southwest and north central Nigeria, or the northern part of Nigeria. Then you go through the north central, then you can cross to the northwest and other parts. So it's a major trading route. You find heavy duty trucks moving along this corridor, and whatever that obstruct traffic here will definitely cause a major gridlock and might also affect the markets in different parts. Like the north is known for agriculture. They produce majority of the food that we consume in this country. So what you find is you find animals, you find livestock and food grains going from these parts to the southwest, go to Ilorin and Lagos. So whatever that happens there, if not quickly dealt with, it's definitely going to affect food prices in a very short time in the southwest. So one of the major bridges that they used in this place was destroyed or was almost destroyed. But thankfully, the emergency agencies began fixing the bridge almost immediately. And just yesterday, the Minister of State for Works was here to inspect the work that was going on. And I mean, funny, even at the state that the bridge was, that it was already caving in, trucks could not stop using it, which was also a major risk that was waiting to happen. And they couldn't keep them away from using it because there was no alternative routes. So and I was even scared. I said, these people, I kept watching them going back and forth. At a point, they had to ensure that only one truck moved at a time, but subsequently in the other days, they are now doing a lot of reinforcement work. I mean, that I don't have the videos now. We don't have the videos. We would have played them to see that a lot of reinforcement work is actually going on right now to ensure that there's actually free flow of traffic and traffic is moving freely right now. But something else, the Minister for Work said that bridge needs to be redesigned, so that they can create a proper channel for water. It needs to be expanded so that we don't have a repeat of this flood that happened again. So we're looking forward to that. I don't know when that is going to happen, but before that should happen, there must be an alternative route for trucks to go through, before that bridge is fixed properly.
So if you look at the number of people that have been affected, well, we understand that over 30,000 individuals have been displaced by this flooding, with many seeking refuge in temporary shelters, which we described as something not worth habitable and not really conducive for them. Of course, it can be. But could you help us provide some insights into the conditions within the IDP camps, if any, including access to basic necessities like clean water, food, and Medicare?
Okay, so back to where I began again to say aid response was not the best. It could be better. Right now, it's just today that a, make, a, a makeshift IDP camp, of course, IDP camp is temporary, but it's just today that we started seeing something like that. UNICEF came on ground and then they're trying to set up a camp just today. This is about 6 days after the incident. In fact, in the earlier days, I mean, in the early days of the incident, the people refused to go to the primary school, the Bege primary school that was designated as the IDP camp, because there was no facility there. There's no amenities there to cater for them. So they refused. So they had rather go to put up with a relative, so there's no water there, there's no beddings there, but from today, UNICEF, like I said, is beginning to set up tents, majorly for medics, where people can come and access medical health care, and then the other primary school, they are now provided with mattresses, But my fear, Ibrahim, is that I hope that all of this will not die down in the next couple of days. You know how it is when something happens, there's this like a sugar rush, everybody's talking about it. And when the eyes of the media is turned away from that direction, the people are left to their fate. I hope that does not happen. That's why we've been on ground for maybe getting to a week now to ensure that that does not happen in quick time. So there's not much on ground, but like I said, things are beginning to pick up gradually, and I expect that by tomorrow, a lot of the donations that people are making, they'll start converting them to aid for these people. I mean, we want to see that they're beginning. We want to see that there's a piece of land right now where they can resettle them, and then maybe begin to give people roofing sheets, blocks, just to help them to rebuild. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you saying that the ground is getting dry again, as against the water overflowing everywhere? Are we beginning to see a dry land?
Oh yes, the ground is actually dry now. Funny enough, I think about maybe the second day after the incident, everywhere was dry. The water is like the water just moved. It's a flash flood, so it didn't stay. All right, so it just passed, and then it caused all the havoc that it wanted causing, and it's moved. So the ground are dry now, and it did not spread up beyond particular location. It's just along the water routes. That's where the damage happened. Life is going on very well in Mokwa right now. And there are other places that, I mean, this place has large, vast land mass, so there are places where these people can be relocated to that is not far from the city here, I mean, from the town rather, and they can build houses for them and ensure that everybody is settled in properly.
But one question that has not been answered is where this water actually came from. Was it from the sky, or was it from a broken dam or dams? And as against what the federal government said, that it wasn't even from Kainji. Exactly where did these waters came from?
Okay, so a quick disclaimer. These water did not come from the dam. I've heard some media outlets report that dams broke, that the dam broke, and then this water came. No, no, no. The water did not come from the dam. No dam broke, no dam was opened. It's actually the rainfall. That's all I can say now. I can't. There are lots of assumptions on the ground. I mean, there are people that have even said that it has some some spiritual connotation attached to it. Because for example,